Hey guys. Okay, so we have something we want to talk about, and guess who's here with me?
Dun 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 dun.
The husband. So Alex is here. He's been on the podcast a few times before. I think it's been 3 or 4.
Yeah, fan favorite.
Yep. We actually, I did get some really good feedback from mums, because obviously mostly mums are the people who listen to the podcast, if I'm honest. And yeah, they actually really liked your opinion and your perspective, and they liked hearing your side of things. I think obviously in this in this space there's a lot of women who talk about parenting, so it's nice to have a man's experience.
Perspective?
Yes, perspective. So anyway, he's back. It has been a few months. I feel like it was February or something. I don't even know, but it's been a while. And every time I'm like, babe, you need to come back on. What do you say?
I'm ready.
He's like, let's do it. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what we'll talk about. And
now you've ambushed me with what?
So I had the idea. This came up I was doing like a workshop today in Sydney with a bunch of parents, and every so often I go to a community centre nearby here and talk about different topics. And one of the things that came up in our talk today, it was actually a toddler session. The thing that came up was power struggles. And when you're in a situation with your kids where they want to do something, you have a different agenda, like maybe you need to get in the car or brush their teeth or whatever it is, and they don't want to do it, and then you enter into a power struggle, which, is so bloody common, I think. And I think that goes from like toddler to teenagehood, probably. We don't have teenagers, so...
Is that considered a power struggle when a kid doesn't want to do something?
Well, maybe it's splitting hairs and...
But is that how people see it?
Yeah, I think, it came up today, and the parent said, look, what do you do with power struggles when your kid when you have to get, like in the car, for example, I think that was the example she used, and they don't want to stop watching their show, or they're on the iPad, or they're basically playing. And I was like, good question. And so, anyway, obviously I answered it, but, I thought... A power struggle, is when you have this like battle of the wills where the other person in the interaction wants to do something, you want to do something else, and then there's like competing agendas. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But you know me, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works.
What's a spanner?
I don't know. How is that? Like, I can understand, and I think I've heard it before, called a power struggle, but is it really a power struggle? Like, isn't it just...
What would it be then?
But just handling the situation? Like,
okay, so...
How can there be a power struggle between a kid and an adult?
Well, okay, so this is why we have you on.
Oh.
Because you have this wildly different view. And you know what, maybe I'm the one not in the wrong, but like who has the weird perspective on things. But having said that, let me just give everyone a quick recap, and you're going to have to fill in the gaps. So Alex obviously is a dad, but also has a background in defense, like army, way back when, in sales. So those interactions and those conversations, like...
Yes, security as well.
Security, that's the other one I forgot to... There's more, and now you run your own business where it's a people business, like it's a service-based business. So you're dealing with people all the time and making sure they have a good time and good customer service. Like, it's actually really beneficial to have you in our house. Thank you.
At times.
But yeah, so, okay, well then...
Yeah, I don't see it as a power struggle.
And
I just think it's, kids being kids, right? Like, I understand that you want it done now and they don't want to do it now, but they don't see it as a power struggle. They're not trying to, like,
win.
Assert their authority. They're just trying to do the best they can with what they have. So really, they're kind of out of control and you should be in control. And it's how you kind of navigate that situation, no?
Yeah, that's a good point.
No?
Most of the time we get, I don't know, everyone, like, I want to say correct me if you're wrong, but you guys are listening and you can't talk back. But I often think that, we get out of control very easily and very quickly because maybe we're reading so much more into the situation, like, he can't treat me like this and I'm the parent and he doesn't know that if we don't get in the car now, we're going to be late and I'll be late for school, late for work, like...
I think, like, from what I've learned from you is that if you handle the situation, whether you want to call it a power struggle or not, like if you're in a rush and the kid's not in a rush, there is what seems like will take longer, which is like talking through it, problem solving, that sort of stuff. What seems like it will take longer actually is the shorter route. It's more effort, but once you can overcome it, even though sometimes people will see it as giving in, it's really just negotiating with your child and trying to find out how can you guys together work out the best outcome to move forward. Because then your whole day can be ruined if you're fighting over this one thing.
Oh yeah, we've been there.
So like, yeah, sure, you'll be there on time, but then they're in a bad mood and then you're in a bad mood because you shout at your kid and they're crying and, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just slow and steady. It's not really a power struggle. I mean, everything you teach, right? Which is just problem solving and managing their emotions and understanding that they're just being kids and, you know.
You said negotiating before, and you're a good negotiator. And you know what? Our oldest is also, I think he's a very good negotiator.
He's getting too good. He's getting too good.
And he will negotiate with his sister about, like, let's say she has something, like, okay, so they obviously share the TV, because we have a TV in the lounge room. And they'll put Netflix on, and one of them will want to watch one show. Like at the moment, they're loving the Young Sheldon show, which is actually really good. And then the other one wants to watch something else. And our oldest will, like, he's actually very good at kind of negotiating so that, but it's
sometimes.
kind of like, but yeah, you're right, sometimes, but sometimes it is in a way that benefits him. It's a little bit manipulative.
Yeah,
like,
of course, he's older. He's flexing his brain muscles, which his sister doesn't have, right? So,
yeah. So, maybe, I think this is really good. Let's talk about...
I mean, you can call that a power struggle between them two.
Yeah. So the thing is, 100%, like, if we talk about power struggle and we kind of frame it in a different way, because I think this sometimes helps people, and I think I must have talked about it today, is that, like, as humans, right, we have this need for autonomy and independence, and we want to have autonomy is like, I want to have what I want to have what I want to have, when I want to have it, when I want to do it. Like, we want that sense of agency, right? Have control. And fortunately, as adults, most of the time we have a lot of autonomy, and we get to work where we want to work, we get to eat what we want to do, eat, dress, blah, blah, blah. Our kids don't have that, though, and yet, because obviously we're the leaders and we have to tell them when to get ready, when to go to school, and what to wear, and we choose the food, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, they don't have a lot of power or a lot of autonomy at the best of times, especially if they're in a household where the parents are very controlling or maybe strict, or, you know, kids should be seen, not heard kind of thing. Yeah. Like, I think that's actually when power struggles
I agree.
take over, because...
I think you hit the nail on the head when you just said kids should be seen, not heard. That sort of mentality is, if you listen, if the kids feel heard, those power struggles can be solved much faster. Like, a lot of the time, they don't know what they're feeling, but if you work through it and you kind of listen and acknowledge, you know, they may not just do a 180, which they often don't. I know our kids don't. Yeah. But if we acknowledge and we kind of listen to why they don't want to go, or whatever their issue is, and then we can come up with solutions and navigate. And sometimes we go, look, I understand where you're coming from, I hear you, but we have to go. Like, this is an important day. We've organized this trip, you know. Look, what can we do to, you know, make it more appealing for you, you know, work through it.
Oh, you know, that
not bribes, but
making it worth their while, or making them see the benefits. So that just reminded me. We've had a few moments like this where we have wanted to go out as a family on the weekend, right? Yeah. And one of the kids it could be either one of them, but one of them is like, I don't want to go, I want to stay home, or I want to chill, or I want to play on the computer, or I had this plan of doing, you know, whatever. And so in those moments, I have realized that I have to let go a certain element of control, because in my mind, I love, like, that's something really important to me. I like spending time with the family on the weekend, going to a cafe, grabbing a coffee, and then we get the kids, like, you know, a Cinnabon or a bread top or something. Yeah. Like, I love that stuff. And so when that's, like, threatened by one of the kids because they don't want to go, then I mentally and emotionally have to be like, oh, like, and actually it happened. This is a good story.
It happens all the time.
I don't know if it happens all the time, but there was a moment a couple of weeks ago when you went riding on the bike with your brother. Mm-hmm. So his brother you borrowed the motorbike and you went with your friend and we dropped you off, right? And then I was going to take the kids home, and then your brother said, oh, actually, let's go to this bakery, this really nice place not so far away, and it's like the kids can play and we'll have a coffee. And I was like, cool, okay, we'll see you. Like, literally, we were like, okay, well, if you guys go the long way, the scenic route, because they're on the motorbikes, having a good time, and we'll just, like, you know, go slowly in the car. Anyway, so I made the decision, probably, what's the word, like, not incorrectly, but without consulting the kids, because I was like, okay, they'll probably want to go, and, you know. And so I had to talk to the kids in the car, because one of them didn't want to go. Initially, they were like, no, I want to go. They thought we were just dropping daddy.
It was a boy, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was like, I want to go home. I'm going to play with my friends on the computer. And I was like, internally, I was like, far. And I was like, come on. And so I was like, okay, I'm much better now at not forcing the kids and being like, it doesn't matter. We have to go. We ask so little of you and we put a roof over your head, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I don't do that most of the time anymore.
That's a really bad way to go.
Yeah. Like and I have done it in the past. Like, guys, please know that I have had those moments where I'm like, I don't care, get in the car. And actually, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't very often snap and yell and like, blah, blah, blah. But what I do is this is probably because this is how I experienced things as a kid. I go like, not mean, but I shame and I don't belittle, but I like make them feel really bad. I make them feel really guilty. I guilt trip. And I'm like, you know, that. Oh yeah.
I wouldn't say you do it.
No, that was my MO. I would be like, you know what, guys, I ask so little of you. You get to play all the time. You get to hang out with your friends. You get to have your own computer or this or that. And all I ask is for us to go out for 1 hour on the weekend. Like I drill it. I used to drill it into them.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, though. I think it's
horrible.
The way it comes across. No, I mean, I think there's worse ways to go about it.
There are.
Like, I'm not saying that's the best way to go about it, but I think it's fine to express yourself, and I think that's why our kids listen. Is saying, "Hey, we do a lot. We work all day, every week. True. This is something nice we want to do.
Yeah.
Like as a family, we can't just leave one of you at home. You know, this is important to us.
Yeah.
That's a very valid feeling that you're having, and that you can express to your kids. And a lot of the time, they'll understand and I'm not going to say that because that's a bit offbeat, but they'll understand. I mean, I think it starts to get a bit bad if you're having that power struggle and they don't want to go and saying, we do this for you. That's when it gets bad, because it's like tit for tat. We do this for you, therefore you should do it for us, which is really not what you want. It's very transactional. Yeah, like, you don't want that. Only do this, so like if I do this, then you have to do that. Then our kids, because they're learning through our modeling, are gonna, you know, the next time they want to do something, and you say, no, I don't have time to go to the park or whatever. The relationship just becomes transactional. Yeah, they're going to be like, well, you know, I went to that cafe with you, so why aren't you taking me to this party? Yeah. Like, it just becomes, tit for tat. Tit for tat. I think that's where it's bad. But if you say, which we do more often now, it's like, this is important to me. Like, this is important to mum. Yeah. This is important to dad. Can we please go as a family? Like, you know, I'll be disappointed if I can't go. And it's like guilt tripping him. It's just expressing how you will feel if that doesn't happen. And there have been times where we've compromised. And one of us has gone. Yeah. Well, one of us has gone and one hasn't. 100%. Right? But trying to get away from those bad habits where you're kind of blackmailing and doing transactions and making him feel bad. Yeah. You know, that is, that's what you try to move from. I've seen our kids do it now and then, which is like, I did this for you, therefore. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no, let's not. We don't do tit for tat. Yeah. It's hard because it sets a really bad precedent, right? Mm-hmm. You only do something for someone in your family because they did something for you. I know. And that's why actually something else that came up in the workshop today, a parent said, what do you think about reward charts and stuff like that? Obviously I won't get into it because that's not the theme of this podcast, of this like episode. However, I did say the same thing. Those reward charts, they might work, like, let's say if you know, you'll get a star or an M&M or whatever on your chart, like for making your bed or putting your plate in the sink. I'm like, that might work in the short term, but what you're doing is inspiring this transactional mindset of, okay, if you do this thing, then I'll give you that. And then if you do this thing, then yes, you can have that. It's this very, it's so hard to get away from though. There's actually a lot of research that shows, yes, there it is, that erodes any intrinsic motivation a child would have had for doing the task. Like, it feels good to clear the coffee table so then we can colour in or whatever.
because what you're doing again and again is actually getting them to focus on the carrot, like the dangly, the sticker or the M&M. They're only doing that task in order to get that thing from you.
And you're not really teaching them anything.
Then that's the other point. You're not bloody teaching them anything, and they're not actually learning, I have to be kind to my sister or share with her because it feels good, and I get some not reward in return, some benefit, like then she will want to share her things with me, and then we have a good reciprocal relationship. Like that's the stuff you want them to learn.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna just kind of stay on topic a bit and bring it back to the power struggle. No, look, but just bring it back to the power struggle. Is that like how do we handle those power struggles? And I think it's not a tit for tat. Not telling him we do this for you, so you must do this for us. Expressing how important the event is, how it makes you feel, why you need to be on time, what people like, you're going to stress me out, like I'll get stressed if I'm running late. Like really explaining to your kids why you want to be on time, why you want to do this, why you want to go there, why it's important to you, what is the friction, why don't they want to go, and it's taking that time. And look, you might end up being late, and then next time it happens, you need to prep. You need to start that conversation or leave half an hour earlier. Like prep in advance for the friction you're going to have. Give yourself that time to know that the kids are going to create some sort of power struggle. Don't wait for last minute, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be, to answer your question, if we're talking about power struggles, is anticipate there's going to be friction. Give yourself time to deal with the friction. Try to understand where your kids are coming from as best you can, although they're not going to be using an adult brain and their reasoning might be a bit off. And then express to them why it's important for them to do whatever you're asking them to do. Like get off the iPad, get off the TV. And then having consequences is fine as well. They don't have to be punishments. They could be expressing, hey, next time I'm not going to give you the iPad because this is what's happening. So that give them consequences if there is that power struggle, and get rid of the friction. But I mean, there's so many different layers that you've covered on your podcasts with punishments and things like that versus consequence. But yeah, I think power struggle is a weird word. But I guess when there's like the kids not listening to what you want to do, and it depends on their age too, how mentally like developed they are, can they have that skill? Maybe they're not ready to be given stuff that's so highly addictive like an iPad. Because every time you try to take it off, and they're going to have a meltdown. So it's like,
we did have that. I remember. Yeah.
There's lots of layers there. But power struggle, I don't really like the idea of power struggle. It's just difficult to handle and not knowing how to handle the situation. Yeah. But once you have the tools and you know how to handle it, it's no longer a power struggle. You're in control of the situation. It's just navigating that minefield of emotions and expectations and all that sort of stuff. So I guess that answers your question. Yeah. Like, how do you deal with a power struggle?
Yeah.
Is you're the one that's in control. You're the adult.
You know what I like is if you reframe. This is something that I think is really helpful for so many different situations with parents and kids. Is if you reframe the situation, and like you've just said, I don't like that word power struggle, because that does imply this like this battling, like competing wills.
Yes.
Like, but if you're the confident, calm leader.
Yes.
Is that the word you use? Lead? You said if you're the... Maybe it's not. Anyway. But, like, you're in control, basically.
Well, you should be. You're the adult.
Yeah. So when you're in control and making healthy, adult, emotionally intelligent decisions, and you have this, like, lens and mindset, basically you're almost going to, like, anticipate and maybe even welcome the resistance from your kids. Let's say you've got, like, a 2 or 4-year-old, like a really little one, could even be a teenager, but like you're going to know that, we have to go, let's say we have to go out to this place, and my kids have just started playing a game or just turned the TV on or something. Like, no, anticipate, which is kind of what you said, like plan in advance, be intentional, and be like, they're not going to be happy with this. I have to get the groceries, and this is the only time I have, and I know they don't want to come because it's boring and they'd rather go on their iPad or something. Like, accept that kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't accept that, and you're like, you should want to come with me, or it shouldn't be this difficult, why is there such a power struggle? Then you're seeing it from like almost like the wrong lens, and you're inviting this like push-pull. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think it can be a lot harder with older kids if you've built bad habits with your kids. Ooh. So if you've built bad habits with the kids, and they have learnt that the nature of the household is tit for tat, then to break that is difficult. And I think the only way you can really break through with older kids, you've taught them how to negotiate and handle situations, and it's always causing trouble, then you're going to have to be open and say, hey, the way we have handled this in the past, where it's been tit for tat, doesn't work. This is why it doesn't work. We need to change our system, the way we disagree, and then apologize as the adult or the parent to say, hey, look, I'm trying to do better. And the way we did it before, what do you think? You're going to have that more adult conversation, and you're going to have to admit that you're wrong and the way that you did it wrong. Like, we are lucky, you and I are lucky that you got into this so early.
Yeah.
That we only had a few early years where we were doing it with a lot of friction and building some bad habits.
Yeah.
And now, because our kids are still young, we can break those bad habits before they get into those teen years where it might be a bit harder. But difficult conversations is going to be the way forward if you got teens that are you're really having that, I don't like the word, like power struggle.
But it's like the culture in your family.
Well, you've created that culture, right?
Yeah.
So if they're really do not want to budge, you've created that culture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's not
well, you have.
Yeah, you have. Well, it has,
No, you've created that culture. I know you're nice and you want to beat around the bush and not point blame, but we got to take responsibility. Like, I've done things that are wrong with the kids, and I have to retcon and apologize and fix and say I won't do that again. I can see what I did wrong and have these adult conversations.
Okay. So my hesitation. Okay, this is why I did that internal cringe, which actually it's not internal because you guys saw it. If you're watching on YouTube, then you would have seen me go like. But if you're just listening on the podcast, I was like cringing because I hate the idea of blaming parents for. Or like shaming or blaming or like, you need to do better, you're not good enough, you've created all your problems. I know.
It's accountability.
I know.
This is husband and wife at work right now.
Just stick to the script.
No, but it's taking accountability. It's being the adult.
It is.
You gotta
100%
look
right,
at what you did is wrong.
And it's in a really non-judgmental, like neutral, black and white way. If we've created this habit in our family of you only do this if I give you that, and the bribes and the threats and the stuff, which, let's be honest, a lot of us were raised with that kind of parenting, so it makes sense. But
yeah, for sure.
If we're perpetuating it and continuing those cycles, then we are going to be faced with kids who are like, okay, this is the way to solve a problem.
Yeah.
When someone isn't listening to you or they're not doing what you want, you force them, you make them, you dangle a carrot, or you threaten and say, fine, well, if you take my phone, I'm not coming home this weekend.
You don't listen, you storm off.
Oh, that's my worst nightmare. So I like the way, power struggles. Let's come back to that and wrap it up.
Well, I think we've touched a lot of bases, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you're thinking of it as a power struggle, that's already a bad start, right? Mm-hmm. Because then you're battling with your kids. Really, you should be trying to negotiate and work through the issues, right? Together, collaborative.
I like that word.
Problem solving. If you see it as a power struggle and you're going to treat it like a power struggle, then you're going to create a power struggle.
Okay, so I have talked to him about, meaning you, I've talked to you about Dr. Ross Green's work, collaborative and proactive problem solving. We had awesome conversations about that whenever I first discovered it a couple of years ago. And that has, I think I've told this story quickly, probably before on the podcast, but one of the early situations where I used this, we could have said it was a power struggle, right? It was at the start of a year, probably 2-3 years ago now. And our eldest, I was like, okay, it's time to get a haircut because school's going to start, right? It was in January. And he didn't want to get a haircut. And for a moment, I did get frustrated. I was like, dude.
I remember this.
I was like, we've just dropped your sister off at a party or a play date or something. I was like, we have a couple of hours to kill. I need to get groceries. Let's just get a haircut. And he was like, no. And I was like, where did that come from? Usually haircuts were fine for him, right? And then basically I did this whole negotiating, listening, communicating and the problem solving, which is this, collaborative, proactive approach. And what came out, because I listened and I said, what's getting in the way of you wanting to get a haircut? Why don't you want to go? Usually it's been fine. Anyway, 5 reasons. I've told this story so many times in coaching and workshops and stuff, so I know it off by heart. But it's all true. I swear to God, it's all true. 5 things. I'm going to try and remember them. He goes, the first one is it takes too long. And I was like, oh yeah, well that makes sense, it's a bit boring. And he goes, I get bored. I get an itchy neck. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that is annoying for boys. They get the itchy. My arms and legs get sore. And I was like, what? That was actually the one that we didn't solve. And then the last one is, this one blew me away because I was not expecting it. He goes, I don't get the haircut that I want. And I was like, what do you mean to get the haircut? Because for, when kids are young, they just get the short back and sides. They don't care. But he got to this point, it must have been kindy or year 1 or year 2 or something, where he was like, all these boys have cool haircuts, and he noticed, and like, you know, when kids notice what others look like and they start to care, he goes, I want like the one with the line and then the over and the gel.
I do remember this.
Oh, so basically, in a nutshell, I'm telling this story really quickly, but we didn't have the power struggle because I listened to what was getting in his way or what was making it hard for him, what he didn't want to do, like what he didn't like about the haircut. And so we solved 4 out of 5 of those problems. So I said, how about we tell the lady, like, just to do a 10-minute haircut? And he was like, oh, can we do 5 minutes? I was like, no, that'll be a bodgy one. What do you think? Is 10? He goes, okay. And we solved the I get bored, and I said, what do you want to do, like, to pass the time when you're getting your haircut? He had a Nintendo Switch at the time, and he goes, no, I always play on that. And I was like, well, what else? Like, what do you think? And he goes, can I have your phone to play a game? And I was like, cool, yes, for your haircut, go for it. And then we couldn't solve the arms and legs get sore one.
Probably made that up.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that could just be a random, that's fine.
They add extra. They always add extra.
I was like, we're past the tipping point because I solved 4 of the others.
Yeah.
The neck, this is the good one. He gets itchy neck because of the hair. And I said, yeah, but they have that paper that they put around your neck, and they have the cape. And he goes, it doesn't matter, it's annoying, and I hate it. And I do remember so many times he'd be like itching when we're walking through the shops. And I said, okay, why don't we take one of your shirts that has the collar, like a polo shirt, and then I can peg it, like we'll flip it up, cover your neck and protect it super well, and peg it together. Guys, we actually took a polo shirt and a peg. And when we got there, he like changed into it, and then he changed after. Like, it was really... And then we did tell the lady, can you do a 5-minute haircut?
Can I say something real quick? Yeah. And I think this is actually very important to say. So hopefully everyone's listened up to this point. Okay. You might disagree. But these situations sounds like, you know, probably like too soft or whatever. But what people fail to realize, and what I failed to realize when you introduced this and started doing this, is that it actually makes the next time something comes up easier. And we don't have that itchy neck, sore, boring time. Like, those issues don't become a problem for the future because we're able to deal with them that day. Things that they don't like doing or whatever, it actually takes more effort in the moment. It sounds like you're compromising and giving in and all that sort of stuff, but it actually doesn't generally repeat itself.
No.
Like, those problems generally don't repeat themselves, and he has a better time at the hairdresser. He feels like he can speak up, right? It really sets you up for in the future when these things come into play, that you can handle them quicker and move on with them, or they don't come up at all.
Yeah.
You know? And also, one thing I've remembered, I really want to put this across, because like you said, I don't want to feel like people are being judged here. With the power struggles, I definitely, if I'm being honest and thinking about it, that me and Arthur had power struggles when he was younger, right? With jiu-jitsu and stuff. Major power struggles, right? So I'm not judging anyone. I'm saying, like, we've been there, we've made mistakes. The stuff that you've introduced into our family has made a big difference, has given me more control of the situation, and I've made those mistakes. And I've pushed back against some of the stuff you've said, but I've tried my best to implement it, and it works way better. Like, you just got to give it a go, just got to give it a try, put the effort in early and often, and then your future problems and discussions and quote-unquote power struggles will get better. Like, I've done it, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. What he's talking about kind of is front loading, like putting the effort in now so that you get the payoff later, which we're absolutely seeing.
Yeah.
The last
couldn't be prouder with our kids.
Yeah,
they smash it, right? Like, we can actually have tough conversations even though they're young.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10 they go pretty well.
Yeah. So the last thing, because I want to tell you guys about this, he one of the problems with getting the haircut was he didn't get the haircut he wants. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a thing. Like, that was news to me. So when you talk to your kids about what is getting in the way in this power struggle or whatever, like they don't want to do something.
Really listen.
You're actually getting information that you have no... I just thought he was like, I don't want to, I'm bored, or it's boring, or I just can't be bothered.
I mean, it's so easy to be little and say, oh, stop being a baby, get over it. It's going to take 2 minutes. Like,
yeah.
I heard that when I was growing up. I think we all heard that.
Yeah.
Stop being a baby. What are you complaining about? Get over it. It's just a
haircut. Yeah. So,
gosh.
I actually showed him. I go, oh, there's this thing called Pinterest, and you can search boys' haircuts, and then there was like, it flooded my phone of like all the different cool haircuts, and he was like, oh, so he picked a really cool one, and then anyway, long story short, the very next day we went and got a haircut because we had solved 4 out of 5 of these problems. Was it the next day?
I thought it was that day. I'm probably wrong.
It could have been even that day.
I thought it was
I
that
don't know.
day.
It was I was like, wow, that worked. And you're right that now, because we've like solved those problems down at the root, then the next time he needed to get a haircut, he was less
he just says,
resistant.
"Can I have a look at some haircuts?" and then picks a haircut.
Yeah.
And then we just get a haircut.
He did go through a phase where he liked this big long shaggy. It was like luscious, but then he realized at night, it must have been summertime, he was like, it's really itchy and annoying. I was like, well, we can get a haircut.
Hopefully that answers
so
your question.
Yeah.
That you
I don't even know
ambushed
what
me
my
with.
question was now.
Power struggles.
Oh. I thought you meant an actual question. This is just a topic.
Sorry, topic.
So, okay, I think we've covered enough. The last thing I would say, let's do like a little, what's your last message? Mine would be to, you're not going to get anywhere if your child's emotionally hijacked and they are overwhelmed and upset or mad or whatever. Like, you have to wait. Waiting until they are calmer to talk about the issue, or the problem or the haircut they don't want to get or the dinner or whatever, is actually, it's not like soft or permissive or anything parenting. I actually think it's a really smart parenting, because you're waiting for their logical, rational brain to be like back online so that you can talk to them and reason with them and it makes sense to them. Because otherwise, if you do it too soon and you're like, why not just stop being so silly, like hurry up, everyone else is, fine with this, it's like ba-ding, it like bounces off because they're not in a receptive place. Was that too long?
This is such a long...
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Over to you, Mr. Pinto.
No one's going to like my answer. No one's going to like my answer.
I can edit it out. What is it? Kidding.
Considering we have been through it and we went through it early, with our kids being quite young, you really have to put the effort in and go through all your courses. I'm serious. There's so many layers there. You can't just narrow it down to one thing.
Yeah.
So there's conscious parenting, there's the problem solving, there's the emotional intelligence, there's the kid's brain. Like, there's so many layers there. People are going to hate my answer. I can't give them like one answer because there's layers.
Yeah.
And then until you understand all the layers and all the resistance you're going to face and how good it's going to be after, like, how can they be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it? Honestly, they're going to have to go through your courses.
Well, you do have to put the time in. Like,
you got to do the research.
Okay. So I started doing this work. So I was a speech pathologist, and then just before COVID hit, 2019, I got into and discovered emotional intelligence. So that's 6 years ago, and we still mess up and we still lose it and stuff like that. And we, like I think the point is that...
Serious question.
Yeah.
If you were meant to, like right now, if you're going to talk about power struggles and how to overcome them and deal with that situation, how long would it literally take you to go through all the layers, like in one sitting?
I mean, you just saw my summary. It was like 20 minutes long.
Yeah. It's like multiple hours. Like, there's so many layers there.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to intimidate or scare anyone, but I'm sorry, there's not a quick fix. You're going to have to practice it. You're going to have to implement it. You're going to have to learn, whether it's from Steph or someone else, like the courses. And
there's heaps out there.
And it's actually easier than you think. It does involve more effort now, but it's going to make your future relationship and future interactions with our kids easier, and it's going to make it easier for your kids. And I'm sorry, it's not a great answer, but...
No, it's truthful. It's honest. And this stuff has helped us, like in our... Sometimes I joke, but I don't know if it's actually a joke. I'm like, this stuff, knowing emotional intelligence, has probably saved us from divorcing maybe 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, I mean,
we're like...
it's definitely stopped us from escalating situations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a lot better than we used to be.
Oh, of course. I mean...
And he's crazy, and I'm...
What?
Just kidding. Just kidding.
We're going to have to talk about this off camera.
Sniff, I'll edit that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry.
It's all in
It's
one
not
go.
a power struggle.
Yeah.
You're the adult. You're in control. Do the research. Do the courses. Learn how to handle it. Learn why it's hard for your kids to handle it. And put in the effort. I know it's pretty blunt and honest, but that's what I had to do. Mm-hmm. That's what we had to do.
It's worth it.
It is worth it. The conversation we have with our kids now are... People are shocked how we can just have an honest, open, mature, problem-solving conversation with a 10-year-old.
We do get compliments. Obviously not like every single day, but people do mention that our kids are...
Oh my God.
Like,
is that how long we've been talking for?
35 minutes. We better...
All right, I'm done.
That's enough.
I've said what I said. I need to go eat.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad that you stopped by and listened. I hope you made it to the end. Thank you if you did. And please let me know if you like what you heard and it's because most of these episodes are just me or me and a guest, and I think it is good to have someone else's opinion who just tells it like it is.
Yeah, and share it. Even with people you think are going to disagree with what we say. Let them disagree.
Yep.
See what they say in the comments and the chats, and then we can respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.